Good morning to all the great people who work here at Stelco. So I am really glad to be back here at Stelco. There's a lot of people I was talking to who I've met 2, 3, 4 times in the past. We were together in 2018 when President Trump did impose tariffs on our steel and aluminum, and we got through it and we won. And I am here to assure people who work here that that is going to happen again. You can hear how quiet it is here right now, because already the uncertainty is having an impact. And I think it is so important for us as Canadians to say to the great steel workers here in Canada and at steel mills across the country that you are a fundamental industry for us. We know how important you are. We know how excellent your work is, and we are going to support you. Clearly, this is an anxious time. The threat of tariffs, the threat of illegal and unjustified tariffs is looming, and we see the impact already here on the factory floor. I have been so heartened and encouraged by the conversations I've had here this morning. People here at Stelco, they remember that the last time around, President Trump actually carried out his threat. He did impose tariffs on Canada's steel and aluminum in 2018. I was in charge of fighting back. We did fight back. We responded with dollar-for-dollar retaliation, and it worked. A few months later, the U.S. unilaterally lifted the tariffs. And so Canadian steelworkers, Stelco, and we've been through this before. We know how to win. We did win. And we know that the relationship between Canada and the United States is mutually beneficial and balanced. And that's why, as long as we are united, strong, and smart, and under my leadership, we will be, we're going to get through this. I do also just want to say how inspiring it's been for me to talk to people working here. I want to give a special shout out to Tony and to his wife Vivian. He said to me, she's the one in charge of grocery shopping in the family, and she is making an effort to buy Canadian. She wants everyone to have better labels in the grocery store so that great Canadians like Tony and Vivian can choose to buy Canadian products. And I also want to give a shout out to Scott. He's a machinist here. He's one of the union leaders, and he promised me he is going to talk to his brothers and sisters in the U.S., the United Steelworkers across the border, and get them to speak out, as they did at the beginning of February, speak out to the White House and point out that these tariffs are just a bad idea. As the Wall Street Journal has said, this is just dumb. And so I just want to say to everyone here at Stelco, to every steelworker across the country, and to every single Canadian, we can get through this. If the U.S. hits us, we will hit back. Canada is going to be united, strong, and smart, and we're going to get a good deal at the end. We're going to win just like we did last time. Thank you very much. Ready to answer your questions. Okay, so great question, and we need a 3-part plan. Part 1 is fight the tariffs. be strong now. Tariffs are not yet in place, and the Americans need to hear from us right now. They need to hear from me today that if they hit us, we will hit back, and that is going to have an impact. Something Canadians need to remember is, yeah, we depend on the United States, but they depend on us too. They buy stuff from us. The stuff they buy from us, they really need. And when they impose tariffs on what they import from Canada, they are going to make prices at the grocery store higher in the U.S. They're going to make it more expensive for Americans to fill up their tanks with gas. And they also need to know that if they hit us, we will hit back. As Prime Minister, I will impose a dollar-for-dollar retaliation, and it is going to be surgical and targeted, so it does the minimum harm to us and creates the maximum pain in the people who have the most influence with Donald Trump. One of the things that will be included in my retaliation is 100% tariffs on Teslas. So fighting back against the tariffs, creating pressure in the United States, so people are calling up the White House and saying, this tariff war is dumb. It is self-mutilating. That's the first thing we need to do. The second thing we need to do, and Tony, one of the guys who works here, raised this with me, is we need to seize the opportunity that this crisis offers us, and we need to work hard to make Canada stronger and more resilient. Now is the time to just cut barriers to interprovincial trade.
Finally!
Now is the time to diversify our export markets. Now is the time to get more big things built in Canada using our great Canadian steel. So that's job number 2. And then job number 3, and I'm grateful for the question because I want the people who work here at Stelco, the people of Hamilton, to hear this very clearly. We will stand by you. Canada understands how fundamental steel is to our national economy, and if the tariffs do come, Canada will be here to support you. As Prime Minister, I will do that. I stepped up during COVID to support small businesses and workers, and we will do that again. So if you'll forgive me, I don't think that question is quite precise. I know Scott Bessent well. I knew him from my former life as the U.S. managing editor of the Financial Times in New York. He is smart, and he has been talking about a Fortress North America approach. I think that could be a really promising off-ramp for the United States. You're quite right in your question to point out that Canada has recognized prior to the election, under my lead as finance minister, that Chinese overcapacity harms Canada. That China has an intentional policy in steel, in other sectors of overcapacity to hollow out our industries. That hurts Canadian workers and the Canadian economy. And that is why in the fall, Canada did match U.S. tariffs on car parts, on steel, and on aluminum, because it was the right thing for our economy and the right thing for our workers. And as Prime Minister, I will be sure that the U.S. administration recognizes what we have done. Now, what I believe Secretary Bessent was talking about is a policy of working together going forward. And working together so that the economies of North America, Canada, the U.S., and Mexico could act as a united front when it comes to Chinese overcapacity. From my perspective, that could make a lot of sense. Chinese overcapacity is an issue we've recognized in the past and something I would act on. And having a shared North American response would secure the shared economic perimeter of the NAFTA countries. But it is going to be very important for us to make clear to our American partners that that kind of an approach only works for Canada if America is acting in partnership with us. We can be their best friend in the world. That is historically what Canada has been. Their best security partner, their best economic partner, their most important trading partner. It is a relationship which is balanced and mutually beneficial. As finance minister, I identified that we have a common interest in acting on China. But I do want to be clear to our U.S. neighbors. We can only be a good partner for you if you are a good partner for us. That is the exit ramp for you. That is why it is time to abandon what the Wall Street Journal has called the dumbest tariff war in history. So, American neighbors, just don't do this dumb thing. And now is the time to work closely with Canada on an economic partnership. But make no mistake, if you hit us, we will hit back. And let me be very, very clear. Our sovereignty is not up for negotiation. We will never give in to economic coercion. We are the true north, strong and free. And I heard that from very many of the workers here at Stelco, an absolute, I'm going to say iron, maybe steely determination to stand for Canada and fight for Canada, and I share that. Well, yeah, sorry. So I had a conversation about that with one of the workers here. Gleb, who is standing behind me, is from Ukraine. I've met him before. He and I discussed that appalling, shameful meeting in the Oval Office. I think we all saw scenes that we could never have imagined. It is so important for us to be clear about what is happening in Ukraine. It is so important not to parrot Putin's talking points and to tell the truth about what is happening. So let me be very clear. Vladimir Putin and Russia have illegally and criminally invaded Ukraine. Putin is a dictator, and this war is illegal. Ukraine is a democracy which is fighting for its sovereignty and for the rules-based international order and build a new world order. Canada stands with Ukraine, and we stand with Ukraine because, yeah, the Ukrainians are fighting for their democracy and their sovereignty. They're also fighting for ours. The fact is that rules-based international order that Ukraine is fighting for, its principal idea is you're not allowed to invade your neighbor just because you're bigger and you have a bigger army. That's a rule that matters a lot to Canada as well. What do we need to do? It is incredibly important for us to be clear directly with the Ukrainians. We support you. We're going to continue to do that. Canada has been training Ukrainian troops since 2015.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
We have been there from the start. It is also really important for us to be working more closely than ever with our European military partners in NATO. We need a new security partnership with the Europeans, with the UK, with Norway to support Ukraine and to defend our own security as well. We need to be very, very focused right now on our Arctic. The sort of cozy chumminess that we're seeing between President Trump and President Putin is something that could well have implications for our North. And so we need to step up Canada's presence, work with our NATO partners to fight for Ukraine and to ensure our own security as well. And let me underscore the particular importance that our allies with nuclear capacity in Europe have for us, France, and the UK.
Oh, no. No.
Absolutely. And I really want to say job one here is to fight the tariffs. Job one is to act urgently and with strength to get the U.S. not to move forward. And I do want Canadians to understand, as people here at Stelco do, we can win this. We will win this. This is not the first time we've faced tariffs on our steel. It happened in 2018. Our response was strong, dollar for dollar retaliation. And if we are united, strong, and smart, which under my leadership as Prime Minister, we sure will be, we will get through this and we will get back to a balanced, mutually beneficial relationship with the U.S. Today is the day to be driving that message home with our American partners, to get people in the U.S. to be calling up the White House and saying, this is a really dumb idea. Don't do this. There is no reason to have a trade war with Canada. So that is job one, is to fight, fight, fight. And not to give up. If the U.S. does go ahead with this colossally stupid, self-mutilating plan to impose tariffs on Canada, then we need to be resolute in our response, dollar for dollar retaliation, surgical, targeted, exerting the maximum pain so that the tariffs are lifted as soon as possible. And absolutely, I want to assure every steelworker here, every steelworker in Hamilton, every steelworker across the country, and indeed all Canadian workers, that a government led by me will be there to support Canadian workers and to support Canadian businesses in the event that we find ourselves in a tariff war with the U.S. The critical thing right now is for us not to be intimidated. The way that President Trump negotiates is by creating maximum chaos and maximum intimidation. We need to be united, strong, and smart. We need to be resolute. We need to recognize that with this White House, weakness is a provocation, and capitulation is not a negotiating strategy. So let me be very clear with our American neighbors. If you hit us, we will hit back. Our retaliation will be dollar for dollar, and it is going to really hurt. Because Canada has leverage. We are the largest market for the US. We are larger than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. So just one Canada, One Canadian Prime Minister standing by herself can have more impact on your economy than the leaders of those 4 great countries. And you need to know we're going to use that leverage. The other thing Americans need to know is the stuff you buy from Canada, this is stuff you need for your economy. You need our potash, you need our uranium, you need our oil and gas and electricity. And if you put tariffs on our exports to you, the only impact is going to be higher prices at the checkout counter in the grocery store, higher prices when Americans fill their cars up with gas, and Americans are going to lose their jobs. American businesses are going to go broke. So this tariff war is a really dumb idea. We have a relationship which is balanced and mutually beneficial. And the best thing for the U.S. to do right now is to get to an exit ramp, to get back to the relationship we have right now, which is good for both countries.
Last question. So you reflected a business before you worked for families, and this is during the pandemic. What could families, practitioners, businesses expect? Is it financial support? Is it what kind of support do you expect?
So we need to be careful not to get ahead of ourselves here. I really want to push back against any kind of negotiating against ourselves capitulation approach. Today and tomorrow are the days that we have to be making the case with maximum urgency to the United States, directly to Americans, that this tariff war is a really dumb idea, as even the Wall Street Journal has pointed out, that it is entirely unnecessary, that it is self-mutilating for the U.S., and that there is a beautiful exit ramp there for the United States, which is continue with your mutually beneficial relationship with Canada, and let's work together on issues of mutual interest like Chinese overcapacity. That option is there, and today and tomorrow are the days to be making that case with urgency. That is certainly what I am going to be doing. Having said that, I want to be extremely clear with every worker here in Stelco, with every worker in Hamilton, with every person in Canada, with every Canadian company. If this trade war happens, a government led by me will be there to support workers, to support businesses. That is absolutely essential. And I know how to do it because I've done it before. Together, we will get through this. Thank you.
That's all the time we have.
Thank you.